Give it up for Chris Coffman, everybody.
So, am I the only one who misses child abuse as a teaching tool for the young? And I'm not talking about like that early 1900s child abuse where you could beat your kid cripple and blame it on polio, but it's all right, we won 2 world wars. I'm not even talking about that late 30s, early 40s child abuse where you could break your kid's arm, say he fell off a bike. But, you know, we put a man on the moon, so everything's okay. I'm not even talking about that late 60s, early 70s child abuse where you'd black a kid's eye, say he ran into the doorknob, but we invented the internet, so everything's fine. I'm just talking about that late 70s, early child abuse where you could wrap your kid upside of the head when they did something stupid, and guess what? They didn't do it again. You know, the time before kids were snorting condoms and swallowing Tide Pods. It was a simpler time. Now, this is no joke. 2 years ago, this just goes to show, this is continuing on. 2 years ago, there was an article that went viral about kids in Florida crushing up Smarties, snorting them, not being hygienic, and they sprouted nasal maggots. Now, you know why that couldn't have happened in the 80s? Because if we were snorting something worth taking a beating for, like cocaine. And we weren't waiting on Smarties. And I seriously had a fear of my mother. God rest her soul, she was a wonderful lady, but she scared the hell out of almost anybody. And I remember being very young and getting told a story about my mother that really kept me up at nights and taught me to respect that lady. My mother was married 4 times. Her first husband was very abusive. Well, one day he got a little too abusive with my mother, and my mother kicked him in the testicles so hard that his eardrum ruptured. Where are those connected at? I laid awake in my bed for months going, how did that happen? The best explanation I could come up with is my mom trained with the Shaolin monk at some point in time, learned the exploding eardrum ball technique. I often worried that she was just going to get into a pose and throw a fireball at me. I mean, death-defyingly frightening. So football season's back and in full swing. With it brings my favorite name on earth. Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter. Jim Bob Cooter could only been one of 2 things. He was either going to be a football coach or a venereal disease Southern belles were warned about before their first cotillion in the 1800s. Now, ladies, be careful the unmentionables around the po' boys. You don't want to catch the Jim Bob Cooter like poor Abigail did last year. People who walk up to strangers with kids and say, ooh, your kid's so cute. I love kids. Really weird me out. Because I don't think they realize just how close they sound to being a pedophile. Realistically, they're vegan pedophiles. Because they need that love and attention just like a vegan needs their protein, but they need to get it in a cruelty-free way. Anybody fall in the black hole on Netflix, all the documentaries? They just go on and on and on and on. Well, I fell into this hole. The first one I watched was on diabetes, and the message was super strong, but about halfway through it completely lost its legs. Oh. So I turned on another one. It was about eating disorders. Argument was pretty good, but it really didn't hold its weight. The last one I checked out was on Parkinson's. Message was good, but you know, a little shaky. So men are probably the most unoriginal, uncreative beings on earth. And this can be summed up by a phrase that men use when they discover they've slept with the same lady as a friend of theirs. They call themselves Eskimo brothers. besides being slightly racist and wholly unoriginal, I think we should just switch it up. I mean, they could use a little alliteration, you know? Beaver Buds was totally available. Pussy Pals. Labia Lads. Maybe if you're from across the pond, Muff Mates. You want to keep that sense of kinsmanship that Eskimo brothers had? Click Cousins. I don't like the word cum as a term to describe an orgasm. Now, I did some research. It turns out that it comes from the Latin root cum, meaning to be with, which is all fine and good, but it just still sounds dirty. So, everybody, I hope you take my advice. Instead of using the word cum the next time you're about to climax with your partner, try using the word razzmatazz. Just hear me out. It goes something like this. It's like, oh, I'm gonna razzmatazz. I'm almost razzmatazzing. I razzmatazzed everywhere. See how much more fun that is than cum? So I was out at a bar a couple weeks ago. This very attractive woman comes in. My buddy gives me an elbow like, hey, you know, maybe you should go talk to her. I was like, she's not in my league, dude. He goes, don't you mean you're not in her league? I said, no, I could easily be in her league. She just needs to get really, really drunk and run into a few rejections throughout the night, and I can be in her league. For her to get into my league, she's gonna have to get hip to the freaky really, really quick. I mean, there's a band of ravenous outlaw midgets running around in my league. We celebrate National Farting in a Kiddie Pool Full of Pudding Day in my league. You really think she's ready to get into my league? Because I don't. I've always been fascinated with the invention of the condom. It was invented in 1564, if anybody's wondering. Obviously a male invention. No way a woman invented that. It's a male invention because a male could look at a diseased vagina and he'd still be like, I'm gonna roll the dice. But if a girl saw a diseased penis, she's like, no, I don't think so. I can't imagine a guy walking up and the girl looking, going, and the guy's like, and the girl's like points at a lamb like, huh? And the guy's like, yay! I more picture it as like 15 guys that have been banished from the village. They're all sitting outside trying to figure a way back in. One guy walks up, like, hey, guys, I got an idea. You gotta hear me out. You got the drippy pee, right? One guy's like, no, I got the sludgy pee. He's like, you got the sludgy pee? You know Cheryl? Yeah, I know Cheryl. And they were like, Eskimo Brothers. And the guy leading the meeting's like, Eskimo Brothers? What's an Eskimo? It's 1564. And they're like, I don't know, but it sounds cool. The guy was like, just shut up, morons. What we're gonna do, you know how we take this lamb, we slaughter them for food, we use the intestines to make sausages? Same deal, we're just gonna leave one end open and we're back in there, fellas. So yeah, I think the condom is a male invention. So I smoke a lot of weed, which brings about a lot of strange things in my mind that are funny but not quite jokes. Like, they're mostly questions. Like, do you think Bill Gates has windows in his panic room? Nobody? Okay. Why is it they say the pen is mightier than the sword, but every time I'm at Comic-Con, I gotta mail home my replica sword of Gryffindor, but I can walk on the plane with 2 ballpoint pens? I mean, didn't we come to a consensus that the pen isn't mightier than the sword? I mean, we have 2 fallen towers that say a pen's not even mightier than a box cutter. Never forget, people. Never forget. Never forget. So I was raised in a meth lab when I was growing up, and recently there's been a mugshot going around the internet, and this guy is a meth dealer, and he had 2 aliases. One of them was Black Jet. Totally white dude. Looked a lot like me. The second one is the one that intrigued me. It was Jesus of Bethlehem. That's fun, isn't it? How does one acquire that name? Like I said, I grew up in a meth lab. I never once heard one utterance of Jesus of Bethlehem. I mean, does he just touch the allergy medication and it turns into meth? Did he feed the entire horde of tweakers, but with 2 Slim Jims? Or the thing I think is most common is probably he just smelled like he'd been dead for 3 days. All right, I got one more for you guys. I have a knee-high sock fetish. Women in knee-high socks drive me absolutely nuts. And this stems from my time in elementary school. I went to a public school that was right across the street from a parochial school. And the parochial school girls would never talk to the public school boys, not in a million years. So that became like the forbidden fruit for me, which is weird because now I question my sexuality every time I watch a vintage NBA game. Like, they're all running around in these little sneaks, knee-high socks covering their muscular calves, little Daisy Duke shorts covering their svelte buttocks. None of them are wearing bras. Their nipples are glistening underneath the bright lights. So every now and again, it moves. Don't judge me. Timely erections are commonplace in my league. My name's Chris Coffman. That's been my time, guys.